Well, I'm back for another YouTube experiment episode. I don't know, video. My name's Andy Petranek. I am a executive leadership and fulfillment coach. I work with men, sometimes with women, but mostly with men who have created a tremendous amount of success on the outside in their life, but they still feel unfulfilled, or they're feeling an increasing sense of strain on the inside, like holding it all together. Maybe a sense of impending doom, or like they can't keep doing this. They're in their 50s and they can't keep doing this, or something's off. And my intention in speaking in this way, in this unfiltered, raw, unscripted, I do have some notes down, but my intention is to share vulnerably and courageously and honestly, and to not hold back. In my last video, I talked about the hidden cost of playing not to lose. And I revealed some stuff about myself and how I have held back in a lot of ways. Editing what I say in some ways. I certainly don't do that I know of as a coach. But I was going to say holding back in what I say based on what I think other people want to hear. One of the things I think my clients really appreciate about me is my willingness to say what needs to be said, and not in saying what people want to hear. But just like the rest of you, probably, there are ways of being that I am in some aspects of my life that I'm not in other aspects of my life. And in coaching, I've been really good, whether it's been in fitness coaching, it's been in the world of CrossFit, it's been in the world of health and wellness as a leader of the Whole Life Challenge. I've been really good at being able to say the things that need to be said, that are maybe obvious, maybe not obvious, but maybe difficult to say. And I just wanted to start off this conversation with that, because I had some people ask me, hey, what is it like to work with you if you're constantly looking for saying what I think people want to hear? I'm like, I don't do that as a coach. I would never be able to be a good coach if that was my MO in coaching. And so let's move into the topic that I want to talk about today, which is it's about goal hitting and winning, and how it doesn't feel like winning. How you get to the promised land and this idea that you've had that happiness comes when you achieve your dreams. I was lucky to be fortunate to have been able to see an advanced screening of Wicked 2, and one of the songs is happiness is when you, some version of happiness is when you achieve your dreams. And the God's honest truth is, no, it's actually not. It's the perception, and it's a trap. But there's an emptiness that I experience personally in and around that keeps us trapped. We get set along our life's path at an early age, just by looking around at the environment around us. We look at our family, we look at our friends, we look at our kids at school, we look at our teachers, and everything that has been created around us is fashioned in a way to have us pursue success, pursue advancement, pursue more, to accomplish something, to make something of your life. And it's not that that's a bad thing. Like, I want you to really hear that it's not a bad thing that happens, but along with that comes this idea that when we get it, we'll have it. And the funny thing is, we learn really early on that we get it, and then it's right off to, okay, what's next? We don't have it. It's like this elusive, slippery fish. We grab it, it's in the bottom of the boat, and we pick up. Have you ever gone fishing and had a fish in the bottom of the boat, or maybe on the shore, and you grab the fish and whoop, it's out of your hands. I'm just checking my camera view here. Make sure it's in focus and one. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, everything's good. And look, when you're in your teens and 20s and maybe even 30s, okay, just keep going. I'll get the next thing. I'll get the next thing. I'll get the next thing. You know, I used to find when I was coaching CrossFit that there was a difference between coaching somebody that's in their 20s and coaching somebody that's in their 40s. People that are in their 20s, especially men that are in their 20s, young men, they need to run into the wall over and over again before they're ready to actually listen to, to listen to advice, to listen to coaching, to listen to, there might be a better way to do this. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes a decade or more before they're ready to. Somebody that's in their 40s who's run into the wall more than once, more than twice, maybe more willing to listen, who's got a little bit more years of life under their belt, is a little bit more open to listening. Women are much better at this than men, typically. Women tend to want to listen. And they want assistance, and they want to not smack their forehead into the wall multiple times. That's not always the case, but I've found it to be more often than not. And as an entrepreneur, both myself and people I've worked with, the idea is to get to the quote unquote promised land. It's always to get to the promised land. It's always out there. Dan Sullivan talks about the gap between where you are and where you want to get to. You ever notice that the horizon never gets closer if you keep looking at the horizon? If you're in a boat or if you're in a car and you look out of the horizon, it's always, 100 miles away. Drive 100 miles down the road and you look out of the horizon, it's still 100 miles away. And that's the paradigm that we're all living inside of. We're set up to live inside of. And we look good doing it because everybody's doing it. So the people that are successful doing it look good. They look strong. They look stable. They look successful. And for a while they are. Most of the work that I do with people starts when they're in their 40s or 50s, not when they're in their 20s, because they haven't bumped into enough things yet to have it hurt. They can just keep going. That's why you can get a kid right out of law school working 80 hours a week, and they might not like it, but it's okay. Man, you got a family and kids and a life at home. Trying to do that when you're in your 50s, if you haven't been doing it for 20 years already, is tough. So you continue down this path as an entrepreneurial man, and you just stuff down any emotions that might get in the way of that. You don't feel your feelings. You just take it for the team. You keep pushing. You keep going at whatever the cost. You keep performing. You keep producing. And while on the surface, the your success grows, underneath there's an emptiness that grows. You start to recognize perhaps that you're not getting anywhere. There's no there. The money that you thought was going to be so transformative, the moment after you have it, doesn't feel so transformative. You know, and this is really about the idea of achieving your way to success, right? I mean, I've done it my whole life. I started out as a young man playing the trumpet. And not as a young man, as a boy. I was a little kid. I grew up in a family of musicians, and I was wearing a suit and a tuxedo before most kids were, before I was like in first grade. I went to more classical music concerts before the age of 5 than most people go to their whole life. And when I picked the trumpet, I picked it. I kind of fell in love with jazz, even though I didn't really play jazz. It's kind of funny. At this summer music camp that my dad was a teacher at, and I was 5 when I started playing the trumpet, and played. And as I look back, it was never this way in the moment, but as I look back, it was really about achievement. How do I get to the place where I'm worthy enough or enough that people will take me seriously, people will love me, that I will be good enough? And so I just kept doing it. I didn't think about that. It reinforced the operating system that was growing inside me. When I win, I'm okay. And when I stop or I don't win, I'm not okay. I remember falling apart after having a particularly bad performance in my talent show my senior year. I wanted all my friends to see how great I was, and it was awful. I was awful. I felt like complete shit. I was not okay. And then I continued looking for ways to prove myself. I didn't enlist in the army. I became a Marine. I looked for the hardest way to do it. I became a competitive adventure racer, got sponsored by Red Bull, and won races and got awards and trophies and winning. When I win, I'm okay. When I stop, I'm not. And then it was in business when I was my first job, so I was in sales, and earn my way to the President's Club. When I win, I'm okay. When I stop, I'm not okay. And I became emotionally dependent on winning. When I started my CrossFit gym, it wasn't okay to just start the CrossFit gym. I had to be successful at starting the CrossFit gym. And then when I competed in CrossFit, it wasn't enough for me to just compete in CrossFit. I had to go to the CrossFit Games, and I did. And then when I started the Whole Life Challenge, became big. And then the reason I know this is because in 2019, when the universe basically gave you a big kick in the ass and said, okay, let's just see how good you are if the business that you have been relying on for your self-confidence, for your self-esteem, for your winning nature, let's see what happens if we take it away. And kerblam, I was not okay. It took me almost a year to come out of the emotional turmoil that threw me into. It took me way more than a year. I mean, you could say that I'm still recovering. I would guess that like an alcoholic is always in recovery, right? I probably will always be in recovery from that. Because I was dependent on winning. I was my anxiety was so high during that year because I had nothing to prove that I was okay. My identity collapsed. See, the winning would mask any sort of emotional depletion I was experiencing. I was getting none of the deeper nourishment, even though I was working on myself too at the same time. That's when I got my degree in spiritual psychology. I didn't realize it, but I was working with an empty tank. I didn't know my tank was empty. And I carried this weight. Knowing something was off. I did know something was off. But see, I always believed, and this is really the deeper mechanism at play. I always believed that I had to prove something. I always believed that I would only be accepted into the circles I wanted to be in, into I call it the cool kids club, if I proved I was worthy, if my achievements were big enough or strong enough to prove that I could make it. And what I found in working with my clients is that's everywhere. It's everyone else too. We're all operating that way. Especially if you're an entrepreneur. We engineer our lives around validation. The idea that we have to do something outside of ourselves to prove ourselves. The idea that our worth comes from that place outside of us. I call it an outside-in approach as opposed to an inside-out approach. See, when your okayness comes from stuff you have to do out there to prove yourself, you don't have real power. You have to keep proving in order to keep proving to yourself that you're enough. And God help you if you slow down. Sit still, get quiet. Try to not do something to prove yourself. There's an inner emptiness. There's something missing. And see, what I would say is that programming that you didn't come into life with it. This is something that you teach yourself. You learn from the people around you. You invent a story when you're really young, 3, 4, 5 years old, that is a story about your lack or your limitation or your insecurity. And you invent a story about yourself that has you as at fault. You know, your mom or dad is late picking you up from daycare. And instead of just knowing that your mom or dad had an important phone call they were on and were going to be 5 minutes late, and they've never been late in the last 9 months of picking you up from daycare, but this one day they were late, you sit there on the front porch. Everybody else has been picked up except you, and you start to wonder, have they left me? Are they ever coming? Am I abandoned? Is this what it feels like to be abandoned? Did I do something? See, it's never mom or dad's fault. It's always my fault. And when that question gets big enough, it's okay, I never want to feel this terrible feeling again. What do I have to do to not feel it? Well, the answer is be good enough. Or that's one possible answer. There are a lot of possible answers. So you go down this path of proving, winning, succeeding, showing. This is very common in entrepreneurs because we're all doing it. Every time that we take an action to prove ourselves, we're reminding ourselves that we're still not enough. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it is painful and difficult. And for the most part, you don't even know you're doing it until something happens, or you might have a sense of it. Like for me, I had a sense that something was off in my marriage before this huge breakdown. The breakdown came 2 years later. But very often it's a health breakdown, it's a relationship breakdown, it's a business breakdown. And what follows is either a return to doing more, again, just ignoring it and getting back to doing more, or the people that I work with starting to tell the truth. Starting to tell the truth about who you are. That's where fulfillment comes from. Like this video is part of me telling the truth. And this is deeply spiritual work. Now, do I lead with that when I go into an executive's office and we talk about business, coaching them for their life? No. Unless they come to me and want to talk about spiritual context. But it's deeply spiritual because you can't get to where the reason we're here is to remember who we really are. And by remembering who we really are, we remember that there was never anything we had to prove. There was never an unworthiness. We are loved. We've always been loved. There's nothing we have to do to prove it. No proof required. And yet we live in this other paradigm. So starting to tell the truth about who you are is part of this deep spiritual work. This healing of your nervous system. Look right out of the gate. You can't see what you need to see when your nervous system is operating at DEFCON 5. Fulfillment will come then from the deeper work, the deeper inner work, not the outer work. Sure, there's outer work that has to be done. There are habits, there are practices, there are, whether it's meditation and journaling, or it's having difficult conversations with people that are important to you in your life, or whatever it is, there is outer work to be done too. But there's a deep inner work that has nothing to do with anyone else. The world that we see is really a mirror for us. What we experience on the inside is mirrored to us in the outside. We are attracting who we are. Fulfillment comes from alignment. And alignment means who you are on the inside is also who you are on the outside. If you're a person committed to honor, integrity, and patience, let's say, well, if you have that mindset at work and then you go home and yell at your kids or yell at your wife and lose your shit when something goes on, well, there's a mismatched alignment. There's no alignment. So starting to see the misalignment. And fulfillment also comes from connection, connecting to yourself, connecting to the people you love. Because when it comes down to it, the two most important predictors of longevity and well-being into later years in life, number one is stress, levels of stress, and your ability to lower your stress levels or live with in a state that is not hyper vigilant, and connections, relationships. Can get very lonely as an entrepreneur, where the only thing you're trying to do is prove yourself. So listen, I could probably keep talking about this, but I want to cut myself off before I hit 30 minutes. God, I always thought I'd have a hard time talking for 30 minutes, but so far it hasn't been hard. Winning is fantastic. Succeeding is fantastic. Setting goals are fantastic. Getting medals and trophies and awards, fantastic. Getting a degree is fantastic. Getting multiple degrees, fantastic. But when you rely on that thing to get you some level of inner fulfillment, you're going to be sadly mistaken. It's going to be very painful for you, as you won't get there. It won't happen. If you want a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on your outside, the work isn't more work out there. It's work in here. Look, if this resonates, I'm going to be doing more videos like this. Everyone's going to have a different topic. I'm going to share about me. I'm going to share about clients. I'm going to share about my experiences. I'd love to have you join me and subscribe to the channel. And look, if you're already here, if you're here till the end of this, for God's sake, subscribe. And if you want to talk about this personally, I am available. I'm not always available, but right now I've got some openings for a few clients. So would love to hear from you. All right, that's it for today. See ya.